Ridley report. Ridley report. Something, 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 something. Ridley report. This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by freestateproject.org/Liberty Forum. Let's take a second to talk about an important question that the mainstream media is not asking, as it covers the terrorist attacks in Mumbai, India. Does India have gun freedom, and could gun freedom have helped prevent the terrorist attack? It almost seems as though I'm the only media outlet asking the question. When I go to news.google.com and I type in India gun rights or India gun freedom, even India gun control, I get nothing. The words India gun control or India gun freedom do not even appear in any media article that such a keyword search brings up. In other words, at least in a quick search, I can't find any media anywhere in the world bringing up the issue of gun rights in India after huge numbers of people were just slaughtered unarmed. It's an indication of the disgraceful state of media in America and around the world today. So, let me take a moment to try and answer my own question. Does India have gun freedom? No, it does not. The government of India has, for a long time, taken active steps to make sure that the average people of India were unable to defend themselves against terrorism. According to gunweek.com, in the mid-1980s, the Indian government put a complete stop to all small arms imports. According to gunweek.com, the so-called Arms Act of 1959, quote, gave vast arbitrary powers to the licensing authorities, in effect ensuring that it is often difficult and sometimes impossible for an ordinary law-abiding Indian citizen to procure an arms license, unquote. Even in a place that has large amounts of gun freedom, like New Hampshire or Switzerland, there are rarely enough guns in the hands of citizens. But in a situation like India's, the rules apparently are so draconian that it almost ensures there won't be enough guns on the day the terrorists strike. The people on the front line of the event, the initial minutes, are almost always helpless civilians. But they wouldn't be quite so helpless without the government's active disarmament of them. In the years following terrorist attacks like these, there are invariably conspiracy theories that question whether a government had an active role in the terrorist attack itself. But there's no need for such theories. We know the government disarmed the people. The tourists, the shopkeepers, the hotel workers, the cab drivers, the people who would have been able, the only people who would have been able to fight back during the first minutes of a crisis like this. Because the police and the military are not everywhere. This gun rights story, this gun rights element, is the most important part of any terrorist story. It was a huge issue in 9/11. Because if pilots had been allowed to be armed, there would never have been a 9/11. It's a huge issue in Mumbai. Had even 10% of the people in the hotels in the financial district been lawfully armed, I doubt the attack ever would have taken place. If it had, it would have been a battle from the first moment instead of a slaughter. And yet no one even brings the gun rights issue up. What we'll hear instead will probably be calls for some expensive new government program, some expensive new interaction between the United States government and the Indian government, some draconian new crackdown inside the United States. That's what happened after the London bombings a couple years ago. Hardly anyone will ask, what government programs can we shut down that are exacerbating the terrorist problem? What laws can we remove that are making life easier for terrorists? So if you're a mainstream news reporter, Please, be the first to bring this issue up. Always be ready to ask yourself, and ask the politicians you have access to, could the latest misdeed have been prevented if there were gun freedom? You've probably heard of Kane from World Wrestling Entertainment. You've probably heard of Richard Heller, victor over the infamous DC gun ban. But maybe you haven't heard. You can meet them both this spring. Come to the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, March 5th through the 8th. For details, visit freestateproject.org/libertyforum. freestateproject.org/libertyforum.